Sunday, the 9th of November. Not long till Christmas. Hope you're all doing extremely well this Sunday evening. Whatever you've been doing, hope you've had a good weekend. And yeah, after the debacle that was the Spurs game, and tonight is going to be your show, so we are going to get into it. Scotty says, "What's good, JB?" Look, Scotty, legend of the chat, as always, my friend. Thank you for the support, and thank you to your guys' support. Was absolute legends of this channel. Now, as I always say at the beginning of the show, please get into the chat. This is the best community on this platform, without doubt. We may not be the biggest, but we are the best. So get into the chat. Give me your opinions. We are just getting there. Respect for yourselves. Respect more than anything to the community. And we don't mind banter. We have Vince says hi. Hi, Vince. I hope you're all doing extremely well this Sunday evening. Now, look, get in there. We don't mind banter. We have some amazing rival fans on here. Everybody's pretty much welcome in here. Nikki C, big up everybody. Dino, legend of the chat. How we doing, Jay? We're doing extremely well, guys. Danny B, of course, legends of the chat. Now, I'm not a dictator of this chat as well. The one thing that we do on here extremely well, even though there are super chats and all that stuff on here, I genuinely do read out your chats. It's because I respect your opinion. Hopefully you respect mine. We don't have to agree. Just because we don't agree doesn't mean I'm going to call out your comments. What we do on here is different. I give you that time, give you your respect. This is an evening show. This is slightly different to what we do during the day. This really is your show. So get in there with the comments. I'll bring in some topics. I've got a load of comments tonight to bring in. I wanted to bring in, I think, first and foremost tonight, what I think were failing players. So this is what are the topics today. So what I want to go through today is why I think we're failing our players again. Šeško, Šeško again is looking like Højlund. I've got some comments on that. I will also think Fernandez, I've been his biggest critic, but I'm also extremely fair, and I see both sides, and I do think that we are failing him in different ways. I think that De Ligt as well, I think we massively fail him, and I just wanted to talk about the failure of the players. De Ligt for captain, I've got some opinions on that as well. What Amorim said after the match, I think he's copping out again. Top four, I want to talk about top four, and not in the way that others are talking. I've seen some stuff this evening again about top four. Can we get top four? I think there's a difference between should we and could we get top four. I'll be consistent in what I've been saying the whole way along that at the start of the season, as I typically do. Wharton, some stuff on Adam Wharton as well, and we can get into that because obviously people are using that. And just again, top four. What would we need to do to get top four? How we can get top four? Pretty much the reasons why I don't think we can get top four right now, and I'm going to be consistent. So getting your opinions about all of the subjects that we're going to be talking about tonight. And again, this is your show. I lead with stuff, and I will happily, as we always do, talk about your comments. So get them in, and we will talk about them in the way that we do, and we end up going down rabbit holes. So tonight, again, slightly earlier time, which is always good. I like the later shows, but if we can do them earlier on, everyone has sort of gone to bed early tonight, so it just means I get to come in here, can relax, don't really need to think about the time, and we can go on as long as we need to. So what I thought we'd do tonight, look, I think where we need to start tonight is I think we need to talk about Shesco. Mummy Council says, what is your reaction on the De Ligt goal? Amazing. Zeal says, hi. I agree with you. And that's a good segue really into what I wanted to talk about. The header was amazing. I think De Ligt should be captain. Future captain. He can't, look, whilst Bruno Fernandez, and what I said after the game, is that Bruno Fernandez needs the captaincy taken off of him. But we can't do that unless we sell him. But I'm going to go into why I think we're failing him as well. I really do think that we are failing Bruno Fernandez. To a degree, I think there are things that he can do better, but I do think that we are partly Failing him, Dino says, top 4 is a massive stretch for me, not a January window can help with. And Dino, I think it can, my friend, but I think, look, let's be realistic. The players that we would need to sign to help us out, we're not going to get. So I'm with you, and we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about the reasons why I think that we're still going to finish in and around 8th. Harif says, do you think Arteta will leave in a few years to go to Barcelona, considering he's an ex-player of theirs? Look, I respect the opinion. I don't really care. But as you've asked me the question, I will give you an answer to that. Probably will do. I probably will do. I think that if he's an ex-player, but again, he still loves Arsenal. So I think if he can, I think once he's fulfilled what I think he wants to do, or the project, and maybe it's run his course, then I think he will. But you never know. You never know. Do you think we will get Baleba? I think he would be a good replacement for Bruno. Now, again, I love the comment. I would still sign him. I wouldn't sign him at the price that Brighton are quoting for the price. Anderson, there's an update. So I don't think Baleba's a replacement for Bruno Fernandes. I think Bruno would be a replacement for Casemiro. I think he's that sort of defensive player, right? I think that Bruno Fernandes is a CM. I don't think we replace Fernandes. I don't think we do that. I think what we do is we build a different team. So I think when we're talking about this, we can't replace Bruno Fernandes because he's that sort of player, right? You can't replace him. But I think what we do need to do is we need to have a different mindset, and I think Believe is a completely different opinion. Did you see my post before? I didn't, Scott. I didn't, mate. I have to say I didn't. But to go back quickly to the Baleba stuff, Anderson is the one for me. I think Anderson is going to cost below what people think he is. I think Anderson is going to be the one that we can do. I think Anderson goes for, because there are reports out there that Anderson has a contract that he's not going to be anywhere near that 80 million mark. I think he's going to be in and around that 40 to 50 million pound mark. So for me, Baleba's going to be roughly around that 80 million mark. Anderson, you get him for 50, 60 million. Stiller, 50, 60 million. Wharton potentially, and we can go through some of that as well. I think you go for those. So would I like him? Yes, I would get him, but not at that price. Yashin says, as a Galatasaray fan, we lost today in the Turkish League, so I'm a bit sad. Look, mate, Yashin, it's never nice. I don't take any happiness or joy from when teams lose, and we're all fans together, right? It's just never good. So sorry to hear that, because it's never good when teams lose or when teams don't play well. So mate, you're with how we play recently, Yashin, you're in good company here, my friend. So why do I think we're failing players? So Shesco, let's look at Shesco, right? So we've signed Shesco, 22 years old, another young player, right? Where he says, has financial spending restrictions in the Premier League hindered English clubs' chances of winning more Champions League? No, not at all. Because you're talking about restrictions of spending. No, because there's a European, like FFP, there's the European one. Everybody's hands are tied. So it's not like we are financial restrictions on the Premier League. Everybody has them. So I don't agree. No, because all I'm going to say, Harry, if you're saying financial restrictions, Liverpool went and spent £500 million. Like Chelsea have gone and spent £1 billion, like £2 billion over the last 5 years. So Harif, where are the restrictions, my friend? Liverpool this season spent the best part of £500 million. If those are the financial restrictions, I'd hate to see them not. So look, Harif, I don't agree. I don't think there are any financial restrictions. I think when City get away with what they will do, I suspect that they will do. There are no financial, like, I get what you're saying, but there are none. Liverpool spent £500 million. So I understand what you're saying. I'm not calling the opinion out, but the facts are at right now is unless teams are forced to spend like £100 million cap, there is no cap. So Shesco, look, let's talk about Shesco. Why do I think we're failing Shesco? I don't think we're learning the lesson with Rasmus Højlund. Harish says fair. Look, mate. I'm not calling your opinion out, mate. I'm just stating facts, right? So I think we haven't learnt from Højlund. Now, I just want to make this point, right? Šeško and Højlund. What is the difference between the two? Now, I'm not talking about long term, right? I'm not talking about long term with Šeško. This is not about calling him out because I think he's a fantastic player. I also think Højlund is a fantastic player. But I'm talking about what we're doing now. Now, in the summer window, I'll go back and say what I said again. We needed 2 strikers. I wanted Højlund to stay and I wanted them to fight it out for the place. Could they both stay? No. But I don't understand right now what the difference is between Šeško and Højlund in terms of both young strikers, both developmental strikers, in my opinion. We needed, Steve O says, good evening, Steve, legend of the chat. I don't see what the difference is. You know, if you look at Højlund and Šeško, I think Shesco is going to be a fantastic player, but if you look at him now, he's showing the exact same signs that Højlund did. His head is down. You know, those opportunities that he had, a more experienced striker like a Tony, I think that we should look into. He would have probably put those away. Like he needed, like, and I'm going to refer back, like. I'm not the biggest fan of this, but I feel like I sort of have to. You know, when we had the likes of Dwight York, Andy Cole, Mark Hughes, you know, Ruud van Nistelrooy, you know, Solskjaer. The reason why we were able to bring those guys through at the time, and you know, Solskjaer was not a developmental, but he was a chance, right? Forlan, you know. We got him. He wasn't the best, but he did start to score goals. Hernandez, you know, we were able to bring these players in because we had the senior players there. We've brought Šeško in, 22 years old, to the Premier League. He's never played ever. Why is there no senior striker? So I think we're doing the same again. We're failing yet another young striker. Are we going to burn him? And that is my question. I want to know your opinions on, you know, what is the difference? You know, would we not have been better? This is just my opinion. Would we not have been better to keep Højlund? I think he would have played the exact same. I'm not saying he would have been a better player. And use the Šeško money to sign a fucking midfielder or a wing back. I think Šeško will be good. And this is not about calling Šeško up. I think he's going to be a fantastic player. I do think he is. But I also think I don't see the point this season in. I don't think Šeško is going to do a better job than Højlund this season if Højlund was still here. And I think Højlund would still not be great because he's not getting the service. Amorim clearly knows this. This is why he doesn't play every single game, because he knows that Šeško is young and Amorim needs another striker. So I think. We're not learning the lessons, and I think we're failing Šeško again. So give me your opinions on that. Let me know if you think I've got a point. I want to know your opinions. What you think of Šeško? Look, this is look. People calling him a flop already, I think, is just ridiculous. He's a young kid. I think the right service, the right team, Šeško will score goals. I think this is why I think we've failed. I think it's very, very naive to think that we can stick a 22-year-old. I know Haaland did it. I think Haaland is a different sort of player. A talent, you know, just a different sort of player. And my worry is we're going to yet burn through another striker. And again, I'll be very consistent. This is what I said as well at the beginning. It's a chance. Would we have been better served to get a more experienced striker? So I think we are failing Shesco in that respect. So I right now, I like him. I really want him to do well, but he's just right now. He's just not got that experience. And he's going to adjust to the Premier League. He's by no way a flop. I just don't want to burn through another potentially top quality striker. Yashin says, after the Champions League matches, we had problems in the Turkish league. The status is the same for Premier League too. Newcastle struggling. Struggling. They were in the Champions League. Arsenal losing. Arsenal getting beat. Champions League. City are a different beast. The more and more I'm watching them, I think the writing is on the wall. Arsenal, are they starting to bottle it a little bit? It's too early to say that. City look like they're starting to run away with it. Chelsea, Spurs. So I do think it does hinder. It does hinder. And we'll talk about that when we go through top four as well. Pure Amazer says, I think Europa League qualification is a success for United in my eyes. EPL today is far too competitive for adapting a team to progress to 15th to 4th. Mate, I think spot on. I think you are spot on. When I again talk about top four, and we can talk about that. Spoiler alert, Pure, I'm with you. I think there are too many frailties. I think there are too many reasons why we won't get top four. Look, there's no argument for me here that we're in a top four race. 100%. I can't argue that we're in a top four race mathematically. But if you look at Aston Villa have now jumped ahead of us. I think you're right. This season is very, very competitive. And I said at the start of this, one of the things I said at the start of the season, and I'm saying it because it's there, is that what I wanted to do this season, be like a Liverpool at the start of the season, where what Arsenal, City, Chelsea, Liverpool did, they said, we're going to try to finish fourth. We're going to try to win a league by buying players. Right? That is what they did. They went out there and they bought players to say, look, we want to finish top four, so we're going to buy the players. We're not going to rely on luck. We're not going to rely on other people getting beat and other people having a good or bad season. We're going to buy players. And that is what they did. Obviously, it's panned out that Liverpool are finding it difficult to gel, inconsistent. City have bought their players. They bought them early. They're looking really good. Arsenal, looking fine as well. They got beat, but Sunderland, surprise package, right? United are hoping and dreaming. We're living on hopes and dreams. This is what I'm saying is that the reason why is because our season right now is based on what other people do. It's based on other people not playing well. And it's so competitive this season that we find ourselves being drawn into a top four race right now because everyone is beating everybody else. So we are relying, in my opinion, right now on other people not doing well. And Pure's right. When we look at success, all I'm seeing, and people are getting carried away with this, I'm seeing, can United get into a title race? Are we going to finish top four? Right? And I've purposefully stayed away from that conversation because my eyes don't lie. As I've said many, many times, there's a lot of people who don't watch football. Of 1 billion fans that we have, there's not a lot of people that have access to watching Premier League games, right? There are embargoed. So when we play at 3 o'clock, which we have been a lot of the time, people don't watch that game because it's embargoed. They don't know how to watch it. people can't afford to watch it. We're living in a time where things cost more and they're going to increase even more. You've got to have. I mean, I've got subscriptions to Discovery, got subscriptions to Now TV, got subscriptions to all sorts of places. Right? I probably, I'm in a very fortunate position that I can watch every game. Right? I'm very, 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 very fortunate. There are people out there who are not, who don't see every game, and they rely on channels and they rely on match reports and they rely on sort of stats to tell you how we're doing. So it's important for channels, important for media to give you an accurate picture. I'm not seeing it. People saying the top 4 winning the league. I'm not seeing it. I've watched every match. I've watched every preseason game. I've watched every match so far. We are on paper, on games, yes. We are nowhere near. We're nowhere near some of these teams. Steve says, Main's big chance now. Bruno has to go back to Cam. Amorim almost said that. That's Steve. Let's hope so. And we'll come on to Bruno Fernandes next. I've given him stick, but I will. I've got some things to say about him. Pure says, but the thing with Shesco, that in terms of striking the ball, he's got one hell of a rocket in that right boot. One of the best in Europe in that area. And of course, athletically, he's an animal. I agree with you. Did you see it? Sorry, was an intense game of FIFA then. I didn't, mate. I'm sorry, I didn't see it. He's more of a full package than Haaland when he signed in 2023. And I agree with you. I agree with you. I think Šeško's potential is scary, and this is why it's starting to make my blood boil. That I feel like we are failing this potential striker. We need to give him the ball. Alfie says, I think we need that stealer from the Bundesliga. Alfie. Liam says 3 PM games are only bar. Yeah, look, Liam, I know that, my friend. I know that. But all I'm saying is, I guess the point that I'm trying to make here is that I get that, but there are a huge, significant number of fans that, because I know they're embargoed because I watch them, right? But the point I'm trying to make, Liam, is that there are lots of people across the world, probably a big, significant fan base when you take in the embargo in this country. And then you take on the fact that it's so expensive to watch games. I think there's a huge majority of people that are not able to watch the games. And that's the only point that I'm trying to make. United need to steal, says Alfie. Who's the next game? The next game is Everton at home. And then we've got Crystal Palace away. So Bruno Fernandes. I wanted to, look, I give Bruno a lot of stick, right? There's no doubt that Bruno Fernandes was, whatever you think about him, is a good player. In that case, I agree. Look, yeah. I mean, look, I'm just, when I talk about, the point I'm trying to make here is that I think that people have a responsibility, and look, people have their opinions on games. I've seen a lot of stuff, but from what I've seen right now, I want this team to do well, right? I want this team to finish first. I want this team to finish fourth. But from what I've seen with my eyes, and we all disagree about the way that people play, I disagree. But I also think that there is an opportunity to do it. Do I think we should? Yes. But I think there's a difference between would and could and should. So Bruno Fernandes. Look, I want to be fair to Fernandes. Look, I've given him stick. I've also said that Bruno Fernandes is playing out of position. I don't mind Bruno Fernandes not playing well in terms of he's been put in a position that is not his position. His heading is not the best, as we saw. The tackling is not the best. He's not that sort of player. He's just not, and that's not down to him. That's not his position. So I've got to be fair. My criticism with him is as being a captain. There are certain things that I want to see. Song. There are certain things that, be honest, he's okay. He looks good because the entire team is shit. No, agreed. But again, agreed. I think there's lots of players in this team right now who are looking better, like a Casemiro, right? Casemiro is by no means an amazing player now. I really, really respect him this season because of what he's done. But he won't get into a top 4 side. And by comparison, Ugarte is so bad. He's so bad, Ugarte. He's making Casemiro look great. I admire Casemiro for doing a job, and I agree with many, many things. But Casemiro, I think if you got an Anderson or a Stieler, they would make Casemiro look like Ugarte. I'm not saying that it would look as bad as that, but I think that the upgrade, you're only going to see how ordinary some of these players are by getting better players. Super Battle says, I'm still in the belief that with new midfielders next season and more time and Amorim, we will win the league. And look, I don't doubt that opinion at all. And again, tonight's show is not really about me coming back on your opinions. I want you to get your opinions in. I don't disagree. Give him time, give him players. And I'll even admit Amorim might not be the manager. He might not be the guy. But at least give him that opportunity. Liam says, I agree, Bruno will never be a Premier League number 6 level. Right. And this is where we are, right? So I think we're failing Bruno Fernandes as well. You know, I'm not going to go into my opinion on him tonight because I'm not going to go into that because I've said that enough. I want to come in tonight with a bit of a defence of Fernandes a bit. You know, I do like to try to play with both sides because it can't all just be, it's not all of his fault. And the reason why I do criticise him most of the time is because he is the United captain, right? I've seen so many captains in this side. And in my opinion, as I said yesterday, there are 2 clubs in this country where the captain needs to transcend the team, and the captain for these 2 clubs are more than any other club, Liverpool and us. Captains for those sides have to be built differently. They have to be, and they have to set their standards higher. You know, they have to. They absolutely have to. They absolutely have to set themselves apart from the rest of the team. And yet, even if they're not playing the best, you know what I expect from Bruno Fernandes is you stop putting your hands up in the air, you tackle that 50-50. I've always said this. A United captain needs to put his foot in there. I'm not talking about taking the player out. You let them know. You let them know that they're going to be in a game today. Our captain should be the first. Captain should be sticking one on him. Take a card. You let that guy know, and then every time he goes to kick that ball, he thinks, right, this guy's on me today. This guy is doing it. Neil B says, how's it going, JB? I'm doing extremely well, my friend. Legend, of course. So that is my criticism of him, is he's just not doing, in my opinion, what a captain should be doing. Now, where do I think that we are failing Bruno Fernandes? He's a number 10. I mean, for God's sake, you know, he's doing his best. You know, aside from, I think he needs to go. I think, look, if we get a significant amount of money for him, I think it's his time. That's all I'm saying. You know, if he's going to play a number 10 and he's going to play, can he add some value there? Of course he can. You know, on his day he can do things that are fantastic. But I do think that even as number 10, I don't think he's as quick anymore. And I think if you get better players, they will make these players that we've got look very, very ordinary. Let's have a little look what we're saying here. Liam says that's a good point. Only with the sign of Birman Cunha did Arias Horland and Rashford wouldn't be good enough in this system. We desperately need a proper CM. Liam, mate, I agree with you completely. Mayor Red says, Bruno, Casemiro, Ugarte, Mainu could all leave in the summer. We're going to have a huge midfield rebuild this summer. I hope so. I think we need it. I think we need, this is almost part 2, right? This is almost, in my opinion, this is what I would do. We know we can't replace the whole team. So you replace your forward line. I still think that we need another striker in there. And now you look at what else do you need? Centre midfield. Spot on. I think centre midfield, and then maybe a wing back. As much as our defence, I think, can do a job for another season, and then you rebuild that. So you rebuild it in a stage, but each time you know, let's just say you rebuild the midfield this season, I think you should still get some sort of striker just to add to that whilst you're building your midfield as well. Super Battle says De Ligt was captain at Ajax at 18. I definitely see him as our future captain when Fernandez leaves. How's it going, JB? Kenneth Moham says, welcome, Kenneth. I hope you're doing extremely well, my friend. Am I the only one who thought Bruno was shite yesterday, not a captain before De Ligt is going for? No, Kenneth, I thought Fernandez, if you watched the show yesterday, I think I scored Fernandez a 4. Fernandez hasn't, look, again, as much as Bruno, I'm in a little bit of defence of Bruno tonight, only on the position. I'm not in defence of him as a whole. I just think that there's no point in me going in on him because I've made my feelings on him. Yesterday, he was awful. The 50, I can't get over, Kenneth, I cannot get over yesterday. The 50-50 that he had, and he poked a toe at it. I can't get over that. Like, I can't. That's not a captain. That's not a captain. When you need people to stand up and be, and you can count on them, you can't do that this season. And I know he's playing the 10. It doesn't matter where he's playing. There are certain things that a captain has to do, and he's just not doing them. Shivam says, big up, my 2 cents. Our midfield is so weak that our defenders are drained by a 70, 80 minute mark. We need to get someone in Jan, else we'll lose an amazing chance to finish 4th. Mate, I agree with you. I've got my opinion on that as well as to why we are tired, and I pretty much agree with you on that one. Neil says left back. Jenny says, do you think Liverpool, after getting destroyed by City, are out of the title race? Mathematically, no. Conceptually, yes. What I mean by that is, can Liverpool get themselves back into a race? Yes, they can. Do I think they will? No. I think City are turning into a bit of a machine this season. I think it's going to be a 2-horse race pretty quickly. But anything can happen this season. Anything can happen this season. Are you married? Sandra Horn says, interesting name. Sadly, yes, I am. So, sadly, for you, not sadly for me. I love my wife. She's an amazing person. Jenny says that Jenny, I didn't see it. I didn't see the City game today, so I can't. I think he's a great player. I think he is, but I can't give you an opinion on it because I didn't see it. Liverpool are too inconsistent for the title. Steve Hannigan, hello, my friend. Hope you're doing extremely well. I put Bruno back at 10 with Cunha and Mbeumo move forward. And Matilda, Bruno at City. And Matilda, Bruno Fernandes, Man City. Shut up and read the comment. That's not very nice. That's not really nice. Sandra, I'll give you a chance, Sandra. The one thing that I don't tolerate on here is disrespect. We don't mind other fans being on here. We don't mind the banter. But the moment you tell me to shut up, or anyone else in the chat to shut up, you will be put on the naughty spot, or the ban hammer comes down. So, Superbat says, I predict City to win the title at the beginning of the season. Look, I after the way that they were playing, I thought Pep. One of the things for me is I didn't think Pep maybe had the appetite anymore. I mean, right now I'm being proved wrong. You know, Haaland looks like he's on fire again. I don't sleep on City. I said that at the very, very start after the first couple of games. Never sleep on City. don't sleep on City. He says, we are flying now, the international break. Tell the truth, would you go out? Would you go out your wife if she was a Leeds? Would you go out with your wife if she was a Leeds or a Liverpool fan? Yeah. My wife is a Crystal Palace fan. I don't base my opinions on people on the football team that they support. Like, I don't. I never have. I don't base my opinion on people based on the football team that they support. I base my opinion on people on the way that they act and the way that they talk and if they're a nice person. So I would love my wife if she supported Liverpool. It's got no impact. Kenneth says, what's your opinion on the subs that we need? Where they needed, I believe you play your best 11 and let them see it out. They're professionals at the end of the day. Kenneth, I think that's a good point. I do believe, look, I do believe we needed to change. Like, Casemiro can't play a whole game. I do believe you play. Look, Kenneth, well, I think you've got a point this season. We play one game a week. So this season, I agree with you completely. If we've got a good team playing, why can they not play the whole game? Because we've got one game a week. So Kenneth, I would probably not agree with you, only on the basis if we had European football, then we've got to change the players. Rotation will be needed now in the next 8 games. But Kenneth, I probably agree with you. We've got one game a week. And that's a good segue into the next bit as well, actually. But I think you've got a point. Scott says, apparently we have agreed personal terms with Steeler. 150k a week. I'll have to take a look at that. Steve says Sky Blue Army. Hey JB's Tulip Legend. Shamira Moses says hi. We have heard Agent Scott back. Agent Scott, mate, we've missed Agent Scott. We need it. Agent Scott. The FA Cup final we beat Palace must have been awkward. No, not at all. My wife's family and some of our friends are Crystal Palace fans. That's where she's from. That way, one of my good friends is a Crystal Palace fan as well. And it's just respect. Like, I mean, when Palace beat us a couple of years ago, I think I watched the game as well when we watched it together. Like, it's just an interesting thing. No, I mean, no, she weren't happy, but no, exactly. Love and family and friends are bigger than football. Jack Brady says, would you take Greenwood back at United? I personally would. And look, again, opinions are the spice of life, Jack. I wouldn't. I wouldn't, because I think that the reason why I wouldn't, for me, is I think that, look, all I'm going to say is that you can have your opinions on people. At the end of the day, he's innocent, right? Obviously, we all heard the stuff that we heard, but I do need to prefix that anything that I said is that he's innocent, because it's true. I've got 3 children who are all girls. Based on what I heard, I wouldn't be comfortable. On a football side, look, there's no doubt that he's a fantastic player. He's innocent. I wish him well. I don't think he should be hounded for the rest of his life. I hope he learns. I hope he's probably learned from that mistake. He becomes a better human being. But for me, I wouldn't have him back at the club. I wouldn't feel comfortable. Like, there are things that people do in life, and it's not just about that. There are things that you can do that doesn't matter what you do. Your opinion will change of that person forever, whether you forgive them or not, which is fine. But I think for me, I couldn't support him, and I wouldn't feel comfortable with him in the side. But I wish him good luck. I say to him, look, good luck. I hope you have a good career. I wish you well, but not for me. So Back says, Bruno can't defend and track players. Casemiro doesn't have the legs and gets run through. That's why defence always gets put under pressure and we concede. Galatasaray, there are loads of Galatasaray fans actually. Ifan says, hi, hello my friend. Vince, hello. Scott, hi everybody. Just watching old games when only one sub got, those were the days back. I tell you what I watched, Kenneth. I shouldn't really be saying this, but I did watch it. I watched the what's his name? The King Kenny, right? So Liverpool, right? I watched that. Remarkable player. Remarkable. Like when you want to look at history, it's important to watch, like, you know, different teams. And I've got a lot of respect, right, for those guys. But that Liverpool team, you know, much respect to that team, right? Because what they did, unbelievable. And you're right, when they had one sub, just unbelievable. Unreal. And again, you know, those guys who used to play on pitches that were like bobbles, awful pitches. And yeah, you know, you're sort of writing out. And when we're talking about a captain, those are the captains that I'm talking about. You know, those are the sorts of players that I'm speaking about here for, like, the both sides. And we just don't have that. Like I said the other day, togetherness. If we still had Carabao football that comes off the bench, would we be sharper? Codhead's knocked us out. You know, I think we'd be better. I think more players would get more time. I think our probably depth would look better because we'd have players that are playing most of the time. But I still don't understand with one game a week how we look so unfit. Right about the Greenwood, De Ligt, surely our future captain. Jack, I agree with you. He did tarnish the crest 100%, but he's won it. And that for me is the most frustrating thing. It's what a player. I'm not doubting the talent. What a player. Liam says, I would take Greenwood back in a heartbeat if it was based on ability, and I agree with the rehabilitation, but he did some horrific things. Just because he didn't go to court doesn't mean he's... Look, Liam, 100% agree with you. Look, it doesn't mean he didn't do... It's different between what you can prove in a court of law and what we all... Let's just prefix this, right? As it was a question that was asked, and this is that sort of show tonight. We don't hide away from these questions, right? We all heard he's innocent, but we all heard. And for me, he tarnished the legacy here. You can't go back, but the talent is there, and that's the most frustrating thing. Frustrating thing is we could have had a talent. We could have had... I've got no doubt he would be scoring goals, but sadly, it wasn't to be. Herb 1234, work in the morning, just stopping by to say, to drop a like and stop for a few minutes. A good weekend. Or, look, Herb, you're a legend, my friend. Ifran Devro says Bruno was not brought in to defend, but to control the midfield. Unfortunately, he's not being appreciated. Since we're not doing well, it's easy to have him as a scapegoat. Look, he's brought in to control, and I'm not... Look, when I say stuff, I'm not calling your opinion out, and if that's your opinion, I'll give you my opinion. He's not controlling the midfield. If you watch that pivot when we attack, what's he controlling? There was an, and I'm going to refer to it again because I can't believe it. There was a 50-50 chance, and he stuck his toe in it. He doesn't control the midfield. He's not, trust me, he's not a scapegoat. There are many players right now getting pelters in this team, but the reason why he gets more criticism, Ifran, he's the captain of this club, and I'm sorry to say this. If you don't understand what a captain of this club means, and it's different. Being the United captain, other than the Liverpool one, people don't understand what that is. It's not the same at City or Chelsea. It's just not. The captains there are not the same. What it means, it is not the same. And the reason why he does is because it's not necessarily because the way he's playing, he's doing a job. He's the captain of this club. And I think people are too young to get that. I think, look, I don't know, like how old you are. I'm not calling your opinion out. People don't get what being a captain of this club really is. And that's why he gets the flack. Watching United 76, 79 as far back as I can recall. If Ferguson would have had one game a week, we would have gone unbeaten for the season. He's no real keen, to be sure. Midfield is mint with a hole. I agree with you. So let's get on to Matthijs. So De Ligt for me, let's talk about it. Let's talk about him. One of the most underrated defenders in this league. He dragged us through in that game. He commands the back four. He commands Maguire. He dictates that back four. He organises the back four. He's a winner in terms of he was captain at Ajax at 18 years old. You don't do that. My biggest fear is that we're going to lose him. That is my biggest fear. I think he is an exceptional player. I think he is our captain. I think he should be the captain. I think he's the future. And I don't think what people understand is the end of that game when people, right, when that corner came in, a lot of people would dismiss that and say, look, he was in the right place at the right time, which he was. I'm telling you now, those sorts of headers are headers like Van Dijk scores, like a Saliba would score, in terms of he was like, I'm going to get this. And there was nobody on this earth that was going to stop him from headering that. He dragged, he is a United player. You can argue right now, is he one of the best defenders that we've ever had? Like, there's a debate. No, but could he be up there? I would say he would go into one of the top 4 teams without a doubt. I think he is that good. Now, I think he's a future captain. There was something that he said. He basically said, so this is what he said after the match. He said that we deserved more, but we looked tired. I don't think we deserved more from the Spurs game. There are certain players in that game. I think he is one of those players that deserved more. I think Lemens deserved more from that game. I think he speaks like a captain. And he said that we were tired. Now, somebody did make a point earlier up in the chat. The reason why we're tired is because the defence are working just time after time. If you look at the Forest game, Liverpool game, this game, because that pivot is so terrible. And I'm not going to go into whose fault it is, because we've spoken about that time and time again. Right? We know the ins and outs, and we know the pivot is not great. We know Bruno is not great in there. Casemiro is doing his best. Amorim's got responsibility for that. He plays a back three, blah, 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 right? But I'm talking about the reason why he's tired, and the reason why they are tired is because the defence are working overtime. If you look at the amount of crosses that are getting into the box, you look at the amount of defending that they have to do because there's no pivot, there's no protection there. That's why they're tired. That's why this. The one thing I will say is the tactics or what's being used on this pitch now is conducive to making these players tired, because they're always having to run back. Cunha is having to run back. Ahmad is up and down. Like Shesco back. There was a point in Spurs game where Bruno ran back and he was not only chasing up the top of the pitch, but he came back and he was defending. That is why we are struggling. Anthony says hi. Hello, my friend. Lean says hi. I hope you're doing extremely well. And I think that pivot is killing them. I think it's absolutely destroying them. I think it's killing them. So I think that's why we're tired. But again, I still don't understand with one game a week, what are we doing? I think we're tired because that is what's happening at the moment. But we've got one game a week. You know, are you and I know, you know, again, I know playing a match gives you a different level of fitness, and maybe that's why we look more tired this year, is because we're not as fit. It's because running up and down a football field, you know, doing laps around a pitch, right? That's not conducive to a fit player. These players are fit, but when we're talking about playing intensive games, this is where you're going to get your fitness up. And I think we're seeing, conversely, you can argue that they would look more tired, maybe because they're having 2 games a week. But also, I think then that we are looking more tired because we're just not getting the games in. So I question that. I do question that. I wonder if we'll be penalised for saying that. I don't think he should be, but I think he's right. Let's go through some of these. I can't believe. Let's go back. Okay. Super says, imagine Roy Keane in this current midfield with Scholesy or Carrick. His leadership is glaringly obvious. Herb says, I can't believe De Ligt is so young. It's like he's been around forever. I meant he was brought in to control the midfield. His first year, he proved what an extraordinary player. Managers appreciate he's doing more than expected. Bruno never down tools. Bruno, there is what I'm going to say about him. Talented player. Very, very talented player. Available, will play anywhere for you. He downs tools, mate. He does down tools. Liverpool 7-0. Liverpool tell you that he downs tools. The Spurs game tells you that he downs tools. The Spurs games, and I'm referring to the final, he downs tools. When I say he downs tools, I'm not talking about he just doesn't want to play anymore. His head goes. Mentally, he tunes out. You know, you look at the first game you look at the Fulham game, I think it was, where he missed the penalty because the referee stepped on his boot. Mentally, he went. He downs tools from a mental perspective. Look, Bruno, there is no argument for me about certain attributes that he has, but he does down tools, mate. He does. Bruno played as a 10 under 10 Argonoli. He can't play in the midfield pivot system. Agree completely. Had we done better, we're challenging for the league, Bruno wouldn't have been held as a legend. Unfortunately, he's at the wrong club, the wrong time at the club. Yeah, and Bruno is not a legend. I'm sorry. And I know that's what you were saying. If you dropped Bruno Fernandes, right? This is my humble opinion, and you can tell me, sod off, tell me that I'm wrong on this one. You drop Bruno Fernandes in the midfield, say of, you know, Keane, Scholesy, you know, Carrick or Beckham. Bruno Fernandes would be a good player. He wouldn't be anywhere near the levels of those players. If you drop the Fernandes in of now in that team, he would be a good player. I think he'd be considered a good player. He wouldn't be a legend. I just don't think he would be. God for Dad says De Ligt has been the best centre-back signing since Ria or Vida. Agree. Lenny will be one of the best 2 in time. Worries me how bad our second halves are in games. Again, I agree. Liam says Bruno is a maverick. His game is about making chances out of nothing and being able to do that with the knowledge that he has a solid midfield behind him, not being the solid midfield. Liam, fantastic point, mate. Like Liam, you do always make fantastic points. Can't argue, mate. Can't argue whatsoever. Bruno out of position is killing us. So many times players are in the space behind him, killing us. I agree with you. Bruno has 3 marking and 6 tackling on Football Manager. I'm with the manager. We got rest, reset. We didn't do press as well as normal. We want players not going on international duty. System of the midfield 2 requires a holding midfielder and a box-to-box. Bruno can't do either. He's a 10, and that's where he plays. Yeah, I agree with you. Vision and flair is more 10. Bruno is just not a midfielder, let's be honest. He's not, Chris Blade. He's not, mate. And no, tonight, my point with him was I'm not here to criticise him tonight. I've done that enough. I just think I have to be fair and play the both sides, because as much as I would say there's if we're talking on percentages wise, I'm hugely percentage wise that Bruno is not great, but I have to be fair and I have to say I think we are failing him in terms of we're not playing him in the correct position, and I think we do fail him from that part. I almost think we are ruining the legacy that he does deserve to have. Yes, there have not been great games, but when we are talking about players for this club, and I've spent the longest time, and again, I'll be fair on this, I've spent the longest time talking about players who, like a Sancho, who can't be bothered to play. They're a team, Rashford for the longest time didn't look like he cared. But Bruno Fernandes does, and I think that this season and last season, more so this season, it could be ruining the legacy of him. He should be celebrated when he leaves this club. He's always available more than a lot of other players. He not necessarily turns up in terms of playing, but he turns up. He's available. He'll give you everything as he can do it in his own way. And I think that I hope, like, when he does leave, he deserves a round of applause. He deserves that. But I just, right now, I think this club and Amorim are ruining the legacy that I think he should have. Liam says, I agree, which is why he shouldn't be playing as 6. Scott says, Bruno will never be a legend of the club. He will be a good player, not a legend. I agree with you, Scott. Liverpool. Mate, you know what's happening. You know what's happening, my friend. Ugarte is pathetic. Manu is overrated. The club failed Bruno. He is not useless but an asset. He's probably the only player that can be sold as a profit. I think Ahmad right now could be sold as a profit. I think De Ligt possibly could. Yoro could be as well. Lemens, I think, give him another season. Mbumo could possibly be sold. I think he's worth more than 70 million. Cunha, possibly not. Disagree. Bruno would be a great addition for a healthy team. Current United team, never. Which team do you support? United. Please. Let's just say, yeah. Okay, so what else did I want to say in this? So, I wanted to talk about this as well. So, I want to know, and I want you to give me your opinions on this, why De Ligt is not in the leadership team. Now, Amorim did go into this as well. So, the leadership team is Bruno Fernandes, Maguire, Martinez, Mazraoui, Delo, Luke Shaw, and Heaton. De Ligt is not in the leadership team. It baffles me. Luke Shaw being in the leadership team, the fact that Geezer hasn't played for best part of 2 years. Maguire, I get it. But the fact that De Ligt, 18 years old, captain of Ajax at 18 years old, why he's not in the leadership team, I don't know. I don't know. I will come on to that as well. The club can never fail a player. No player is bigger than the club can never fail a player. No player is bigger than the club. Like Ibrahim, I agree with you that no player is bigger than the club, right? But if you don't create a platform for success, so what you're saying is, and let me, like, you've made your point, I'm going to make my point, right? Is if you bring in Shesco, who's 22, he's basically still pretty raw. If you bring him in and say to him, you can lead the line, but you give him no balls, you give him no. The guy's 6'5". You don't play to his strengths. You don't pass him the ball. You don't give balls into the box. So what you're saying is he just has to come in and just do the job. Like, it's different for more experienced players. If you go and pay £100 million for a player, well, I'm expecting you to come in, mate. And I know we paid a lot of money for him, but we know he's not the finished, right? You're paying for potential. The two number 10s that we signed for big cash, they've come into the squad and they're proving their worth. They're proving the money that they're worth. But you can fail a player. If you don't give a player a platform to succeed, then you failed them. You know, Bruno Fernandes is being failed. Look, again, I've got strong opinions on him, but if you're not playing Bruno Fernandes in a number 10 position, as much as I think he's failing the club in terms of he's not doing what he should do as a captain, we're failing the guy. We're not playing him in his position. So look, whilst I agree with you, no player is bigger than the club. There is not a single player in this team that could leave and I'd go, yeah, I'm fussed, because none of these players are a patch on what I've seen. But we also still need to give these players a platform to succeed, and we're not doing it. If Manu doesn't get game time, now must be a move on. I think there is. FC Bayern give you Matthijs de Ligt, so you were lucky to have him. Pavarin, they didn't give us anything. Bayern Munich didn't hand him to us, did they? We paid money. So Bayern didn't give him to us. Bayern didn't want him anymore, and we paid a good sum of money. So, you know, it wasn't like they handed him to us. Bayern Munich, Amorim knows Manu's overrated West Ham midfielder. De Ligt wasn't a leader after he left Ajax. Let him marinate, he'll become one. I disagree. You're entitled to your opinion. I think he's always led. Wherever he's gone, you can see he talks, he's a leader. Whether or not he was captain of a team, De Ligt, you can tell. You can tell that he's a captain. We fouled you to get Mazraoui. Disagree. Mazraoui is a good player. I think what did we pay for him? 20 odd million. Mazraoui is a bargain. Again, I disagree. I think Mazraoui is a fantastic player. He's just been injured, but other than that, I think he's an absolutely fantastic player. Manu would do well for Fulham or Everton, not United quality. My friend says maybe they don't want to put so much pressure on De Ligt taking the responsibility of leadership. Other than that, I don't see any other explanation. Bruno Fernandes, really. So look, leadership team. So the fact that he's not on it baffles me. I think he's a future captain. Now, what Amorim said on this, and he was asked the question about leadership team, and Laurie Whitwell asked a question, and Amorim said this. Okay, so Laurie Whitwell asked why Amorim is not in the leadership team. Amorim said this: players who lead in the way that they play, players have a different involvement in Carrington. In the end, everyone has to be a leader. So he said players who lead in the way so there are players that play There are players that lead in the way they play, players who have a different involvement in Carrington. In the end of every day, they have to be a leader. Everybody has to be one. What a fucking cop out. I'm sorry. Like, you know that I support him, but I have to call that bullshit out. The reason why he's not, and I don't think this has been said enough. Look, I am Amorim in. I will support this manager, right? I will do, because I do believe, again, I've said it plenty of times, but there are things that I will call out. What Amorim is doing right now, and I don't think this has been said enough. Amorim is playing a type of survival football, in my opinion. I think Steve's right. I think the attitude in attack is better. I think that the attitude is better. I think Amorim this season is using that experienced team to get him through the season. I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all. Like he says, my friend, we've got to keep progressing. We are not there yet. Look, I agree with it. I 100% agree. And you know how I feel about this coach. He needs to be given time. Amorim doesn't have all of his players, right? I get it. But there are things that I see in season where I have to call out. I've got to. Amorim basically being told that young defender who saved us is not part of a leadership team when Bruno, the captain, is not a leader in any way. Maguire is barely plays. Martinez is injured, hasn't played for the best part of 2 years. Mazraoui's injured. Luke Shaw, don't even get me started on him. Heaton doesn't even play. And a certain Portuguese wing back, I mean, he's shit. So, and then Amorim coming out and basically saying that players have to be leaders in a different way. These are the things that baffle me. As much as I want him to succeed, I've supported him. I have supported him, but I have to call these things out. I personally have to play both sides and say, as much as I'm Amorim in, I'm not blindly him in. And I think that there are things like that people need to talk about. I'll come on to that, Paul, as well. Efran says, what baffles me so much is that we fail to capitalize on favourable games, which will release pressure on us. 2 games in a row, as example, we simply just messed up. 2 games, 4 points lost. Look, we could have gone second. And Amorim said, and look, I will, again, I'll go back, right? I've got my book of stuff, right? I've got my book of stuff, and I'll go back and I'll read that point, right? Amorim said this: we can win any game. We think we can win any game. Last games was tough on us. We were not the team we were supposed to be. And this is the Forest game, by the way. We cannot forget we have to improve. We are more prepared for anything that can happen in game. We are a better team in the moment, but we have a lot to improve to win games. We also know we struggle in games we have to win. This is Amorim talking, right? And what did we see on the weekend? Amorim knows this team. Amorim probably knows the leadership team is not the best. Amorim knows. But the fact that we are not given the credit, and I think as fans now know we're not fooled. I think Amorim does this on purpose at times because I think he knows he needs players. So for me, captain-wise, yeah, I think he's a future captain. He's not going to get a look in while Bruno Fernandes is here. But unless I think next season, I think he needs to be vice captain. I just think he's a phenomenal player. Steve says, I'm seeing much better attitude in the attack this year, which is great to see. But other than the goalkeeper, we're seeing such a massive. But other than the goalkeeper, are we seeing such a massive improvement? Steve, I've been saying this, my friend. We finished 15th last season. The majority of that team are still here. We're very, very consistent. And I'm gonna come on to top 4 next. I'll give you my opinion on that, guys. I want to know your opinion on top 4. Give me your opinion on the top 4. I want to know, given that a couple of weeks ago, channels out there talking about winning the league, which makes my blood boil. Talking about top 4, we draw 2 games. They're talking about it again because teams lost and won. That I want to know your opinion on top 4. The midfield pivot is costing us way too many points. Get him. Paul James says get him sacked and people above. He's related to the manager. That's why he plays. Look, Paul James, I think on here, quite a few of us, including me, don't understand why Amorim plays the 2 Portuguese players all of the time. Well, we know why they get played. And I think we're of the opinion that, they sit on his lap and they give him a like a belly tickle. There is favouritism that goes on in this club. And I think we're becoming wise to it. Ifran says Shaw should not be in the leadership team. But then again, I can't comment about it because that's the manager's decision. Look, Ifran, comment on it, mate. Like, this is your opinion. Look, this is your show. Whether or not we're right, it's our right as fans to comment on it. It's our right to comment on it. And Luke Shaw should be nowhere near it. I know people like Shaw. I do get it. There are things that Luke Shaw does right. But he drops off a cliff. He should look. Should Luke Shaw be getting anywhere near this team? No, because we should have better defenders. Like, it's such a failure to me that this club, that Luke Shaw, after 2 years of injuries, why do we not have better defenders, younger defenders to bring in? Luke Shaw shouldn't be here. And what I mean by that is that we should have upgraded Luke Shaw. He's injured. We gave him that contract. This is not like a personal thing. Luke Shaw should have been shipped out. He can still do a job, but we need better players. And I think it's a failure that Luke Shaw is still here and we're still having a conversation. His in-game management is baffling sometimes. I don't disagree with that. Don't forget, we're losing players in December and January, so United will struggle big time. Amadan Mbumo going to AFCON scares me. Yeah, he's actually related though. No joke. Yeah, but Paul. From what I read, mate, it's like a great uncle or something like that, my friend. Shaw should have went years ago. I agree. What Jose said about him at the time. Luke Shaw is Phil Jones. Only a couple of years ago, Phil Jones. Look, Paul James, mate, you make a fantastic point. Phil Jones was still here. People forget that. Have you seen how far back Delo and Amorim are related? Your second name is Owens, means Jones. We have Welsh names, we'll probably relate. Yeah, look, yeah. I know, and you do make a good point there as well. So, before I come on to top 4, Wharton. Let's get on to Wharton. I've also seen people leading with Adam Wharton is joining the club. Here we go for Adam Wharton. I have seen that as well. I've seen, Wharton says yes to United. Wharton is going to join the club. Be careful of that in the next 2 weeks. There's an interview that was done with him, and I'm going to read this. This is not word for word, but I'll give you the highlights of what was said. So he was asked in an interview and linking him to the rumours, and he basically said it's good to be linked with clubs like us, but he's sure that we're linked to 20 players, right? And he said he's not going to go overboard, but if my agent gets a call, then we'll speak with Palace and then we'll see where we are. Look, Adam Wharton should be on that list, right? I know there are many in the fan base that like Adam Wharton and give him a chance. I like him. I would put certain midfielders above him because I personally just like Steele, Anderson more. I think Wharton should be on that list. Patrick Dorgu did well last night. Lucky, I agree. I think Dorgu did well. KK says, what's happening to Kobe? Are they keeping him? KK, who knows? Who knows, my friend? If Kobe doesn't start many of these next 8 games, so 2-week break, and then we got the international break, and then we've got about 8 games in the space of like a month. If Kobe doesn't play in any of those games, I think probably potentially he is gone. I think we're going to see that very, very quickly. But let's see. Steve says none of the targets will be let go in the January window. I agree with you, Steve. So this is what I'm going to say now. Look, I may come on at some point and report, if I hear from sources, from Agent Scott, that Steele is going to sign, I'll come on. But I also, what I did, or what I'll do, is I don't know how many of you were here in the summer when the channel sort of started and I was away. I came on and reported, but I'll give you both sides. I'll give you my opinion. I'll tell you if it's true, false. I'll give you my opinion on that as well. But be careful. So as of now, what you are going to see, I guarantee you that tomorrow, next couple of days, Adam Wharton is signing. Adam Wharton has agreed. He's confirmed. Adam Wharton has basically talked about the rumours and basically said, look, it's good to be linked with clubs like ours, but United will be linked to 20 players, so he's not going to go overboard on it. If his agent gets a call and they speak to Palace, then at that point, then he'll like have that conversation. Do I think clubs will call? Of course they will do. I think he's a great player. I think he's very sensible. The January window, there is no chance that he's going. No chance. I think Steele would be the gettable one. Anderson, I think he's a gettable player. There are rumours out there from credible people that Anderson actually has a clause in his contract where they've been quoted 120 million. Anderson is not going to go for that. Anderson, I think, will go for around 50 million. But I think that's at the end of the season. Now, I'm going to prefix this as well with saying, look, Romano has reported this as well. Amorim has said this as well. Basically, that United will not be looking for loans. They'll be looking for permanent signings because they don't want players that are only here for a short period of time. There are 2 things, in my opinion, that will happen, and what that means is that there's no value in the market. That's what we always do. What we always say. Do I think we'll do loan deals? Yes, I do. I don't believe that for a second. I think we need midfielders in. I think we'll loan someone in. I think we need to loan a striker. I think Tony, for me, would be the perfect striker. You get him. You could maybe get Tony. He's 29 years old. Maybe get Tony on an option to buy. Let's see if we can get him on an option to buy. If he does well, I think he'd be a good addition to the squad. He reminds me of that Louis Saha, that proven Premier League player that you bring in, can do a job for a couple of seasons, will get you 10 to 12 goals a season. Teddy Sheringham type. I'm not suggesting that he's on the level of him, but you get those signings and you are a little bit older, give you that still, give you that something different in those kind of difficult games. I'd be all over that deal. Super says, so Delo is a West Ham player, not a United quality player. I don't even think West Ham would take him. Paul says, not happy with Shesco either. Need a striker that will hit the ground running. Paul, I think that's why I start the show saying that I think we failed Shesco. I think, like the old days, we needed to have a more experienced striker, and then you bring in Shesco. Right now, I don't see the difference in between Haaland and Šeško. I think maybe we should have kept with Haaland and spend that money on a midfielder. I'm glad that Šeško's here. I think he's one for the future. I think he's got all the attributes to make it. But Paul, I think it's spot on. I think we need a more experienced striker to come in and help him. I'd love that Matoma from Brighton. Forget the superstar names. Get people who play in the position that we need to fill. Look, Paul, mate, I think you're making some good points here. Bowen, I'd get him. I think that's an interesting option. I wouldn't get him for an exorbitant amount of cash, but if you look at what Liverpool did, so they bought Chiesa, right? Injury prone, out for a long time. But you look at him when he plays. Like, I'm not adverse to those type of signings. I don't necessarily think he should be our star player to come in, but players like that, Paul, I think you're right. We need those Premier League proven players to come in as part of a squad. I agree. Super Batter says top 8 this season will be progress. I agree. I've said all season between 8th and 10th, and right now I'm not gonna go against that. I'll tell you why. I've got my top 4 reasonings as to why I think we could potentially get top 4. Why I don't think that we will, but look, let's talk about that. Chris Woodward bag, Weghorst, Igalo, and Steve, as you say, for every Cavani, Zlatan, there's a Weghorst, there's an Igalo. So I think we need to be really careful. What about Danilo on loan from Juventus, Mr. Freeze? I've not seen much of him this season, but interesting option. Fran says, I still maintain that United had to go for an established midfielder. Trincao would currently a project team, except for very few players are world class, except for De Ligt, Yora, Mbeumo, and I believe Shesco. Etor says, hi from Italy, I support Inter. Welcome, my friend. Steve says, Dong Fangzhou. Who is the other one? Was it Manuccio? Back in the Manuccio, Makeda. Fellaini is a free agent. Oh, Jesus Christ. I meant Wilcast. Look, I know what you meant, my friend. Top 4. Let's have the conversation. So Gallagher calling a permanent signing. I mean, I wouldn't be adverse to him either. So let's go on to top 4. I want to have the conversation about top 4 because I think it's time we have the conversation. You guys know how I feel about that. I think we should be taking it game to game. This league this season is ridiculously competitive. Sunderland, I mean, Bournemouth, who are amazingly well, got beat 4-0 today. I mean, you've got to. This league is ridiculous. Let me go for the comments first, and then we'll talk about top 4. Paul says he's got an amazing advantage of having no European football, plus out of the Carrier Bag Cup. So let's see how good he can do. He surely has to impress, or he's gone. United is not what it used to be in 2008. You were really strong. Etor, look, mate, I'd even go further back than that, mate. We're not what we were in 2008. We're not what we were in 2000 in 92. We're not as strong as we were in 92, 93, 94, 95. Mate, I've been here since 88. This team is not a patch. I'd even argue this team is not a patch on 2013. Whenever it was that we won the league last, this team is not even a patch on that. I think Cleverly would add something to this team. I don't even think that we're a patch on that, mate. So you can probably go back to 2008, but I'd even go back to 2013 and probably argue we're not as good as then either. Paul says top 4, no chance. There's no reason why we can't finish top 4 players are the best in the league and we only play once a league. Mr. Freeze, opinion, mate. tonight, and what we don't do on here, and what I don't do is I'm not going to come back on your opinion. That's your opinion, and I respect the opinion. I'll give you my reasons now as to why I think that top 4 is not on, and I'll give you my reasons why I do think we could potentially get it. Should also be winning the league. Look, Mr. Freeze, interesting opinion. I disagree. We can't finish 15th with these set of players and win the league. Where I do agree is that from a conceptual basis, from a contextual, we play 1 game a week. We are the biggest club in this country, whether people agree that or not. We should be winning this league every single season. We should be. It's a fact. Not because I'm dumb. It's basically because that's the standards that I demand of this club. But we're nowhere near it. We should not be winning the league. We are nowhere near it, my friend. Top 4 battle is between 7 teams. United is messing it up with our consistency. 94 team would piss all over this team. I agree with you, Paul. Mate, I think the 93 team would. With Parker, Irwin, Pallister, Bruce, Ince. I think Keane was there. I think Keane had just signed. Cantona, Mark Hughes. Can you imagine Bruno Fernandes in a training session with Bruce, Pallister, Mark Hughes, McClare, Ince, Keane, Kanchelskis? Not a chance. Not a chance. Ferguson is missed. I would have loved to have played and win with United. Yeah, I agree, mate. No men here anymore. Film Lover says, cool. India, welcome, my friend. We're overhyped. After watching Baleba, Wharton and Anderson this week, and Wharton looks as slow as Mainu. Baleba's head has gone. Anderson looks more suited to us, my personal opinion. I agree with you. Wharton for me would be on the list, but Wharton for me is lower down my list. For me, Anderson is number 1. I think for me, he is the all-rounder that I'd go for. And Stiller. I think those 2 for me would be good. Paul says if finish between 8th and 12th, I say it's more realistic. Paul, I've said all season in and around 8th and 12th. Friend says even though we play 1 game a week, the environment is like playing 3 games a week because of the pressure. Some players are not good. Calling out Ahmad, he is profit to us. Maguire and Bruno deserve a title. Maguire's like Steve Bruce. Mr. Freeze, mate, I don't know how old you are. You sound like you're older because you're referencing Bruce. Why do they deserve a title? That's all I'm going to ask you. The question is, why do they deserve a title? What have they done in this club that they deserve that? I'm just asking, why do you deserve a title just because you played here for 6 years? I don't agree. You don't deserve a title. You earn a title. Nobody deserves anything in life. Bruno, is it his fault that he's here? Maybe the right player at the wrong time? No, but you don't deserve. You don't deserve it. You earn it, and by earning it, you then deserve it. So you don't just deserve the title, you have to deserve it by earning it. So once you've earned the right, then you deserve all the accolades, you deserve all of the titles, but you don't just deserve something, you have to earn it. Bruno would be a T-boy. You mentioned those players. Now my question, where does Gallagher fit amongst those names? We should stop being desperate. Look, we need bodies, and I will come on to my top 4 as to why I think we can't win it, and then I'll go on to my top 4 as to why I think we can win it. I remember 2021 when we beat Newcastle 4-1, and Cristiano came back. We looked like the 08-09 team. What I love on here, Mr. Freeze, is I love the difference of opinions. I really, really do. Like, that's an interesting opinion. I don't share it, but I love that opinion. It's again, I love different opinions, and that is a different one to mine. Yo, John, what's up, my man? Isaac, legend. I hope you're doing extremely well, my friend. Isaac is a legend. Pops in and out of here. Legend. Steve says, 20 years ago, the Glazers walked into the biggest club in the world and turned it into a cash machine and stripped us of everything. They did. Are you watching Eubank Ben next weekend? Isaac, yes, I am. I will watch that fight. Dan Ferguson got a winner's medal. Ferguson wasn't innocent. Imagine, it's really, really, like, listen, if you can find the clip, or clips, listen to what Roy Keane says about Ferguson. Listen to what Roy Keane says about Fergie. Listen to what Roy Keane says about his son. It's interesting. As it says, John, you have ever plucked your cheek hairs, mate? My daughter has. These things, mate. If I pluck them, it depends on what cheeks you're talking about. If you're talking about these cheeks, yes. If you're talking about no. I meant, yeah, I know. Mr. Freeze, we never look like the... Ifran says, the thing about, the Premier League is a misnomer. This thing about no, the Premier League is a misnomer. What do you mean? Do you mean that the Premier League is not as good? I'm fully behind Keane. Don't worry about that. So, okay, let's go on to top four. And as to why I don't think that we're going to get top four, you guys can tell me. So look, I think there's a difference between should and could. Should we win the league with one game a week? Of course we should. Are we going to win the league? No. So at present, this is why I don't think we're going to get top four. I think we are tied in the first half already. There were some games, there were a couple of games where we basically, where we look fast. We've now stopped the fast starts. What are we doing? One game a week. The training that we're having, one game a week. Why are we tired? Why are we tired? I don't understand that. The pivot is awful. We're not going to win the league with that pivot. I'll come on to how I think we could fix it. We're not winning the league with a pivot. We're not winning the league with an out of Fernandez, with an out of position Fernandez and a Casemiro and an Ugarte. We are 100% not going to win a league with that. We're conceding too many goals. We scored 19, conceded at 18. We're not winning the league. That is not a top four. That is not a top four stat. The midfielders can't get hold of the game. We've got, again, going back to the pivot. The midfield can't get hold of the game. Bruno Fernandes as a 6 or an 8 doesn't work. We are not going to be able to get top four and play, and play the amount of games that we're going to play with this pivot. Again, substitutes. Amorim's in-game decision making is not good. And I fully support him. I want him to do well. I've been saying this for the longest time. Amorim is 41 years old. He is early on in his career. Amorim may not be the guy. That's something that we may have to accept. I'm going to support him, but he may not be the guy. He's still learning. If you come back in 5 or 6 years' time, Amorim will be a far superior coach. There is no coincidence, other than maybe Pep. You could argue that, whereby you look at Jurgen Klopp, you look at Ferguson, you look at Ancelotti, you look at Conte. When they start reaching late mid-40s, early 50s, this is when they get better. Older managers are typically better. It comes with experience. It comes with making mistakes. Amorim will get better. He'll probably learn so much from this job. The next club that he goes to, he will be far superior. So I think he's too young. And I think at the moment, the style of play, look, I don't think it is his formation. I don't think it's the tactics, right? When I say that, I don't think it's his personal tactics or the formation. I think I agree with Paul. I think that the tactics he's deploying with this team are not working. He's playing in my opinion, he's playing a style of defensive. He's playing a style of survival football, whether that's to get to the end of the season or whether that is to get to the window to get more players. I don't know. So I think right now, and also we are relying on other teams around us not doing well. Sadly, this season, Sunderland are doing extremely well. Bournemouth were doing reasonably well. Villa have come back into it. So look, we are. There are so many reasons right now for me, predominantly with this team. A striker, we're not getting service to the striker. The pivot doesn't work, and we need players. So to counter it, look, how do we get top four? How do we get top four from this point, right? And let's go in. Paul says the only other week he got back-to-back wins. His record at a team like this is disgraceful. If he gets a January window, I'm very good summer, we can challenge for the title. If we get two centre-backs, two centre midfielders, a centre-back and a right wing-back, the Brentford midfielder who went to Arsenal as backup would walk into our midfield. I agree with you, Steve. Fran says, I'm going to say that we will make top four. Ruben Amorim will get it right in terms of getting the players to respond. Ruben Amorim didn't get a checkbook like Pep nor walk into a successful team. Think about it. Look, if Fran, mate, I love your opinion. I do. I don't agree with it, but I love that opinion. I think we do need positivity. I am somewhere between. Look, I'll be positive on the game day, but I have to be a very, very logical person. I don't blindly get behind. But for me, if Fran, look, mate, while I respect your opinion, Amorim has had 10 games. It's a 38-game season, and he's nearly a third way through the season. The reason why I don't think that Amorim, if you put Amorim, so if we'd assigned Wirtz, so let's just switch it round. If Liverpool, if he was the manager of them, and all it was new signings come into his squad, and he had a side of Szoboszlai, McAllister, Ekitike, a Gakpo, Virgil van Dijk, right? And we had new players, and the only problem was bedding in players, right? He's not going to get this right with these players. He's not going to fix Luke Shaw. You can't fix Luke Shaw. You can't turn back the time and make Casemiro 27. Bruno Fernandes is getting older. You're not going to make him a better player. You're not going to, make Maguire younger. It is not a case of him trying to get this right with these players. He can't do any more with some of these players. He just can't do it. Like Ugarte, he can't make Ugarte better because Ugarte is shit. It's whilst I agree, if you give him players, he'll get it right, but he can't do it with these. He can't do it with all these players. Let's have a little look what we're saying. Film Music Lover says City forever. Just build. Look, I wonder how blue you'll be if United win the league. Liverpool, no worries. He doesn't have the experience of changing a game when things aren't working or shaking things up to gain confidence. If he loses the dressing room, which he could do at some point, he's a goner. Mr. Freeze, Casemiro is the best midfielder in the Premier League by a mile. Now I know, Mr. Freeze, you are a troll. he should be the key to securing the title with 21. I also think it's not fair how Van Dijk and Diaz have 2 and 5 titles and Maguire not any. All right, Mr. Fraser. Consistency breeds success. Amorim is well under extreme conditions. Let us not forget that Amorim had to come and deal with there's something about the club's aura. But we are not consistent. We are a toxic. Look, again, I believe in Amorim. Look, after the Grimsby game, I'll get absolute pelters on here. I believe in him. I really do. I just don't believe in these players. I just worry he'll sign people to fit his system, the poor players too, then he'll end up getting binned and we'll stuck with crap again for the next manager. Paul, don't disagree. Don't breathe in the applesauce. It makes you cough. Thank you. I'm a season ticket holder since 1989. Mate, I'll always say this. I always big up the match-going fans, and the reason why I do that is because you're the lifeblood. You go, you spend your money every game, and over the last 10 years, it's been dire. So I'll always shout out the match-going fans because I think it's important to. You guys are the lifeblood. You go every week. You spend your money. You've had to watch a pile of shit for pretty much the last 2 years, probably more than ever. So, Paul, big up to you, mate. I'm not a troll at all. I strongly believe in this team, and it hasn't been good enough. But these players, I know deep down, are more than capable. Mr. Freeze, I think you're wrong. I value your opinion. I'm not calling your opinion out. I personally don't agree with you. Luke Shaw is done and dusted. Casemiro is 34 years old. Maguire is done. A Delo is awful. He needed to be gone many, many years ago. We need to fix this team. It's not a case of I don't want us to win, but I know what we are. These players are not capable of winning the league. These players are capable of losing to Liverpool 7-0. These players are capable of ballsing up a Europa League final. To be clear, in that Europa League final, Spurs were utter dog. We were worse. And Spurs had most of their first team out. They're not good enough. They're not. They're just not. Paul says, I was at Tottenham. That, mate, legend. Has been brought up. Paul says, Liam speak properly. It don't make sense. Ross wouldn't have been a perfect fit to replace Casemiro. So how do I think that we can get top 4? I personally think we can get top 4. We need investment. I think the only way we get top 4 is if we sign players. January window, if we go out and we're an ambitious club, I think Sir Jim poking his fucking nose into this club saying that we can win the champion, we can get into the Champions League with this squad. I think he's a fool. I've always thought that he was a fool. There is no way we get into the Champions League with this squad, in my humble opinion. I think if we sign a striker, if we get an additional attacker, if we are ambitious and we go and get an Anderson or a Stiller, we go and get a wing back, I think that gives us half a chance. I also think that we need to drop Bruno and play him as a 10. I also think that maybe we play a false 9 more often. I think we need to bring Shesco. I think we need to bed Shesco into this game. I think we need another attacker. I think we start playing a proper midfield. I think we either get rid of the pivot or we either put proper midfielders into that pivot. And then I just think investment into this squad. To be fair, though, we have invested, especially in the summer. I was shocked, so I want the manager to show me he's worth his seat. And look, Paul, I'm going to say this, mate. You've seen live more than the team than me. This is my opinion on the summer window. I scored it low. The reason why I scored the window low, I scored the window of 4, right? And whilst I do agree with you that we invested money into this squad, these players weren't here mostly for pre-season. I watched all of the pre-season games. We pretty much played the same team that finished 15th last season. I believe, Paul, that we have pretty much the same team that finished 15th last season, and it shows. We signed, I think, 2 number 10s we didn't need to sign, but I think those 2 signings have been fantastic. I don't think we needed to sign Shesco. I think we should have used that money elsewhere. I like Shesco. I think he's going to be a fantastic player. But I don't see right now the difference between him and Højlund. I think we should have probably signed a more experienced striker and got a midfielder. These players came in late. Lemens didn't come in until after, the second or third game. So for me, whilst I do agree that we invested in the summer, I don't think it was a great summer. I don't, mate. I mean, I understand people that say, like yourself, that we sort of had a good summer, but I just don't look at a summer in terms of the players that we signed. I look at the summer in terms of how long it took us to sign players. I look at, did they play in pre-season? What's the impact of these players? Now, I've since then scored the window up on the basis that the 2 number 10s that we signed, Lemens, have been great. So I've pushed that up to a 5.5 to 6, but I think an error was made by keeping Fernandez. I will die on that hill, the same as Amorim's going to have to die on that hill as well, that the Bruno Fernandes decision was the wrong one. I also think that Amorim cannot improve these players. And it's not because he's not good at his job. I think he has improved this team a bit. But you can't improve Luke Shaw. You can't improve Maguire. You can't improve Casemiro. Casemiro's got better this season, but you can't improve players like that because they're like, when the Butcher comes back, he's been out for pretty much 2 years. People are expecting this guy to come in and work miracles in his team, and I just don't think he will. Ryan says we need legs in the midfield. I agree with you. I agree about Shesco. Didn't need him. Summer we need a new centre back. Top 4. Sell Ahmad to fans. Mate, Ahmad, not for me. Not for me. Ahmad's been one of our best players. I wouldn't sell him. Brennan in 10. Bring in a right wing back, left back. Release Xerxes and bring in another recognised striker. I don't get the Xerxes thing. I don't get him. I mean, I didn't agree with. Look, fans were all over Xerxes' case after, I don't know, 4 games, right? I don't know what people think Xerxes is. I don't think Xerxes, and look, I hope I'm wrong in this. I hope Xerxes comes in and starts banging in goals, right? Right now, I think there are players in this team that are a myth. I think Xerxes is a myth. I like some of the things that he's done when he comes on, but this free Xerxes, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. Paul said, where are you from? Middleton. Shesco was a strategy. He had to score those 2 sitters. They weren't sitters. Let's be fair. Look, those shots against Spurs, or those potential shots, they were not sitters. We would have had Shesco in this conversation. We also point out to Amorim from Maguire and Shaw. He found them there. Yeah. So look, guys, I'm going to go. Fantastic show. I do love these evening shows. I think it's very, very interesting points. You know, I love the fact that, you know, we've got people like Paul, Liam, Lucky in there as well. Ifran tonight has been putting in loads of comments as well. Ryan, you know, guys, I'd normally read out all your names, but there's so many of you. You know, I love the fact that everybody has a different opinion. Ifran is saying Ahmad is too short and fragile to play right wing back. Ifran, I'm gonna disagree, respectfully disagree. He went to Anfield, went to Liverpool, and was one of our better players. Forest, thought he's one of our better players. He set up the goal against Spurs. Whilst I do agree, my friend, that he is quite small. Look, we can all disagree to. We can all agree to disagree. But look, guys, thank you for your comments tonight. Legends. You know, these shows are the best. But look, I as I always say on here, look, this channel is nothing without you guys. I love the comments. I love the fact that we all disagree, we agree, and we all get our opinions in. So, you know, this guys, I can never thank you enough for interacting with me, interacting with the chat as well. So, you know, look, guys, I'll be back tomorrow at some point. So have a good rest of your morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are. I will be back tomorrow. Thank you, Ifran. Don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe, my friend. You guys are legends. Come back, and yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. So look, guys, thank you so much for being here. Have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you are in the world, and I will see you tomorrow. So take care, and I'll see you on the next one.